Hi guys, welcome to November. I thought to close out the past 2 months, we could talk about my reads. I read 2 books in September and 9 books in October. October has been my best reading month so far this year, which is very exciting, and I'm hoping it continues through the end of the year. Nearly every single one of my reads has been over 2 stars, which is insane. 2 stars has been over 4 stars. So I'm very excited to talk about these books. Starting with the 2 that I read in September, the first one that I picked up is The Night and the Moth by Rachel Gillig. She has easily become one of my favorite authors of all time. I read One Dark Window and Two Twisted Crowns, which is a phenomenal duology, and this is going to be a duology as well, and I am very impatiently waiting for the next book. This ends on an absolutely insane cliffhanger, but it was so good. There is a very beautiful friendship going on in this book. There's a slight plot of romance. There's a lot of reveals going on, especially towards the end. It gets insane. Some stuff I was like, oh my god, what the heck. Also, she has a friend gargoyle. Come on, who doesn't want a friend gargoyle? And he calls everyone Bartholomew, which is so cute. Like, this book is absolutely wild. It takes you on a whirlwind. I will say the beginning of the book was a bit difficult for me to get into. I don't know if that was just me personally, or if that's just the beginning is a little slow. But when this book picks up, it picks up and it gets so good. I would 100% recommend this, especially for this time of year. I gave it 5 stars. The second and final book I read in September is In the Veins of the Drowning by Kaylee Cassidy. This book I have never seen anything about, but following a siren named Imogen who didn't grow up with other sirens, so she's not aware of her power, like the sheer strength of her power. She doesn't know where she came from, and she's kind of like stuck in this castle. She's not allowed near the water because the pull of it is really strong, and no one is supposed to know that she's a siren because sirens get captured and killed and hung because they think they're evil and whatever. It took me so long to figure out what I wanted to rate this book, simply because I felt so distraught after reading it, like so unsettled. It was the most bizarre feeling. The ending really leaves you wanting to read the next book, which I guess is the point, but also I almost don't want to because of the way this made me feel. Never felt this way after reading a book, and it was quite strange, but I did finish this book at night and I felt so unnerved. I could not go to sleep. Like, no matter what I tried, I could not get myself to go to sleep. I was just thinking about the ending, that if you've read this book, like the final scene of this book is absolutely insane. So wild, the amount of stuff that you find out and that gets revealed. And like in the first chapter, not the first chapter, in the first like 2 or 3 chapters, things get really crazy too. It really holds your attention the entire time you're reading. I read this in a day because I could not put it down. In the end, I ended up giving it 4 stars. It took me a really long time to decide on that rating just because of how weird I felt at the end of it. Okay, so this brings us to my October reads, which I've read 9, which is crazy, and I'm so happy about it. The first book I read in October is The Spell Shop by Sarah Beth Durst. I have now discovered my love for cozy fantasies. I have never read cozy fantasy before. This was my first one. And wow, this just makes my heart so happy. She has a best friend that is a spider plant, Kaz. I want one. Please, give me one. What the heck? It is so sweet. The found family in this, the town that she ends up at, it is so wonderful. And their jam shop, it is truly just a very heartwarming story. If you want like a happy, cute little story, there's really no high stakes whatsoever. Of course, it's slightly predictable. I don't even care. It just made me feel so good. The next book I read in October was a very anticipated release for me. It's Soul Searching by Lila Sade. I read all of her books this year. I discovered her Meadowlark series this year. At the beginning of the year is actually the first books I read this year were the first 3 of that series, and I have absolutely fallen in love with her writing. I think The stories that she makes are so beautiful, and this book might actually be my favorite of hers so far. There's a little ghost aspect, but in a very friendly way. It's not a horror or very paranormal book, I would say, as someone who is absolutely petrified of reading any of those books. If you're like me, you are more than safe to read this. They're very, very friendly, and she just talks to them. So we're following Collins, and her twin sister, ever since they were little, have had the ability to communicate with ghosts, and she has lost her ability to communicate with them. It feels like there's like a block. So she decides to go back home, and what's waiting at home for her? No one other than Brady Cooper. And you know where that's gonna go. It's amazing. She gets a job working for him. He decided to continue his grandfather's carpentry business. He has just gotten out of a relationship, and they kind of just become friends, and then they can't fight their attraction for each other anymore, but they start to do like these little adventures with each other, and it's just a really cute and sweet story. I ended up giving this 4 stars, but I could definitely see myself maybe switching it to like a 4.5. Following that, I was kind of put into the mood for fantasy, so I decided to read Direbound. Yes, I have heard sounds like Fourth Wing, blah 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 blah. I don't care. Read it. It is so good, so much fun, very, very predictable. Just think Fourth Wing with wolves. It says it in the description, but it is like very Fourth Wing-esque. There's trials in order for them to actually stay bonded with their wolves. Very similar, but this is just so much fun, and it ends on a fat cliffhanger. So I need the second book immediately. I actually ended up reading this 4.5 stars. It was literally genuinely probably the most fun book that I've read this year. After that, I got another new release, which is Mate by Ali Hazelwood. Bride was one of my favorite books from last year. I love the series. I love the little world that she has created for these characters, and this, top notch. Amazing. The main girl, Lo, her sister is who we're following in this book, Serena, and she is mates with the main alpha of a different pack, and Serena is half werewolf, half human. She's one of the only ones who exist in the world, and there's people out to get her. She's trying to figure out her history, where she comes from. Cohen is obviously very protective over Serena because that's his mate, and it's like an instinctual reaction, but he starts off by saying, oh, we're just mates, like it's a sexual desire, it has nothing to do with love or whatever. Yeah, sure it doesn't. There's also a sort of cult-ish aspect that goes into this, which is also really fun. I read this one super fast because it does kind of keep you on the edge of your seat. I ended up giving this 4 stars. Really great read. So much fun. Definitely would recommend it. And I have just realized that I skipped a book on accident because I don't have the physical copy because my mom is reading it. But it's If It Makes You Happy. That book was so wonderful and so sweet. It's literally a fat hug in a book. There's some sort of found family, you could say, with the town. I love a small town. It's genuinely probably one of the best things that you can get out of a book is a small town aspect. It's just so beautiful. Probably the best fall book I've ever read. I haven't read many fall books, but definitely the best, and up there with one of the best romances because it's a slow burn and it's beautiful. She has a relationship with his kids. He's basically a single dad baker, and she's obsessed with him from the start. The main girl, her mom passes away, and her sister is supposed to be inheriting the inn that their family runs in this small town, but her sister wants to finish school, so she takes time off of work to go run the inn before her sister can come, and she ends up befriending the hot baker neighbor, and it just goes from there. They kind of flirt the whole time when they're friends, and it's really funny and really cute. That was a 4.5 star read for me. Alright, we're getting towards the end. Technically, I read If It Makes You Happy before I read Mate, so the book that I read after Mate is Slanting Towards the Sea. I read this strictly because Sarah Crowley rated it very highly, and it did not disappoint. There is very raw emotions and characters who are truly human, like they do wrong things because they're not perfect, and you just follow Ivana, I believe is how you say her name. She divorced her husband because she can't have kids. and she marries who is her best friend. It gets complicated, things get revealed, very complex relationships in this story, but I really enjoyed the ending. I think it was fitting for the story. And if you're into character-driven stories, definitely read this. There really is not much of a plot. It's just you're following her and her journey and struggling with still being in love with him, but having to make this difficult decision and maybe finding new love, and things get revealed. There's some drama, but it was definitely very interesting. Now, there is a lot of miscommunication in this book. These people don't talk about their feelings. They don't talk about anything. So if that agitates you, maybe it's not for you, but it does agitate me, and I didn't find it too frustrating because you find yourself like siding with these characters even though they make some interesting decisions. It was still really good. I ended up giving this one 4 stars. This next book I have in a reading vlog, so I don't have too much to say about it, but we have Fall I Want. This is a very cheesy, spicy, small town romance. There's a little bit of a magical aspect to it, and it's just very cute, simple, sweet. Definitely a good palate cleanser if you're looking for that, but there is quite a lot of spice in here, a bit too much for me, to be honest, and I honestly do not remember much of what happened. We do get some jealousy, which is always fun. That's kind of all I remember, even though I literally like just read this. I ended up giving this 3.75, my lowest rating so far. It just wasn't my favorite, but it's not a bad book. This next book is also in a reading vlog, so I don't have a ton to say, because if you want to see my opinions, go check out the video. But I read the first book in the Shades of Magic trilogy, A Darker Shade of Magic. This was really fun. I was literally sitting on the edge of my seat trying to read as fast as I can because I wanted to know what was going on. It did start a little slow for me, but it ended up being so good, and I absolutely adore these characters. With that being said, I ended up giving this one 4 stars. Now, I haven't actually finished this next book yet, but October's not over yet, but I know I'm gonna finish it probably today. It's People Watching by Hannah Bonham Young. I was possibly gonna read this in my past vlog and I just didn't get to it, but I don't know what issues people are having with this book, but I am having the best time so far. I'm around a little more than halfway. Basically, Prue and Milo are trying to pull off a friends with benefits situation. The whole reason that Prue is doing it is because she wants to gain experience because she's a virgin, and Milo has a ton of experience, but there's no like point to it for Milo. I mean, obviously he's very attracted to her. This isn't really friends with benefits. They've never been just friends. They obviously have very strong feelings for each other from the start. They're both like, wow, like this person is so attractive. So you're gonna try to pull friends with benefits. You obviously know that that's not gonna work. I will say one of my least favorite things in books, and not in a bad way, but I really don't like reading books where one of the parents has either dementia or Alzheimer's. I think it is so sad. It's genuinely one of my worst fears, so it's not my favorite thing to read about, but I think it's done very well so far from what I've read in the book, but it is just adds a very sad aspect to this story. And I don't have a rating for it because I haven't finished it, but I have a feeling it's going to be around 4 stars. I'm having a really fun time. So that brings us to the end of our September and October little reading wrap up. I'm not sure what I'm going to get into in November, but I really hope that the books are as good as these past 2 months. If you would like to see my November reads, make sure to stick around and subscribe, and I hope to see you guys in the next one. Bye!